What's up, Beam Tribe? Nick here from Ottawa, and today we're going to talk about the first element of your beam practice. Okay, and each journey, there's 4 journeys on the beam, which each reflect a different base stance that you're starting in, and this is the very first one that's going to kick off your entire beam journey. So welcome to practice, and here's your first challenge. Okay, so with single leg, it's pretty straightforward. You're putting one foot on the beam, and with anything that's one-sided, you're going to do both sides. Now, whether or not you decide to take on the challenge of transitioning from one foot to the other without touching the ground or not is totally up to you. What I mean by that is you can stand on one leg, and what you want to get to is 60 seconds. So after you're done 60 seconds, you can either get off the beam and put your other foot and get your 60 seconds on that side, or you can get on it, and essentially when your 60 seconds is up, you can then go to the other side and use that as kind of an added layer of challenge. Now, with single leg stance, anything that is labeled stance is going to be for 60 seconds. So if you see it show up as reps, it's 10 reps unless stated otherwise, and if it's stance, it's 60 seconds per side if it's a single-sided or asymmetrical stance. So 60 seconds per side is the metric that you want to be able to do to complete it. Now with single leg, it doesn't really matter how you do it, as long as you essentially, the rules are with single leg is one leg is on the beam. It doesn't matter where the other leg goes, as long as you don't touch the ground for 60 seconds. So I'm going to go through that right now. I'm going to set my timer. So my foot, I like to put my foot where my middle or my second toe is kind of right in the middle of the beam, but it's totally up to you. Find whatever works best for you. The one rule is no looking down at the floor. So you might not be able to see my head right now, but I'm looking straight. You don't want to be looking down. By looking down, your eyes act as sensors for the ground, where we want to train your brain to use your feet as sensors. That's really what our feet are supposed to be, sensors for the ground. Okay, so I'm going to get going here and do a minute on one side and then a minute on the other. You can either use a stopwatch. We have a clock on the way for the office so that we can put it on the wall in front of us, have something to look at without having to finick around with the watch. But the goal is to get to 60 seconds. And there's really no wrong way of doing this. The only wrong way is if you touch the floor or if you look down. So try and look straight. Oftentimes you'll find a sweet spot where it feels really easy, and that kind of tells you that you've found a spot where you've got good alignment of all your bones and where your muscles also are firing exactly enough to make sure that you stay centered in that sweet spot. And we're doing a minute on the other side. Like I said, the transition is totally up to you. If you want the added challenge, then you can use the transition as part of your completion metric, where what I mean by that is if you're switching from one leg to the other and you touch the ground, that doesn't count if you decide to use the transition as part of the challenge. What I would recommend is just be consistent. So decide at the outset if you're going to use the transition as part of the challenge or not, and if you do, keep it at that for the rest of the practice session, or section rather. So for every stance, for every journey, you want to make sure the transition from one leg to the other is included in the challenge. Do we have to do the full minute? No, but I think it's important for us as a software team to prove to you that it's possible by doing these things to their full amount. So the full 10 reps. There we go. And that's single leg stance.